Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We have a lot to accomplish this episode. We want to get bathroom situated. We want to get thimbleweed going. We're even going to get plastic production going. All still running on Dupe power. Speaking of which, thanks to some awesome recommendations and doing a power tutorial, we've figured out another method of doing our dupe wheel hamster cage sort of setup. And this one will actually be positive decor. We also needed to extend our polluted water tank for obvious reasons. It was a little too small. Our initial design was just getting it working. Now we can actually put in some permanent structure in a large tank that will last the test of time. But I was also thinking that we could use this space here as a battery box, and it will always stay cool. Now, normally when you're throwing heat inside your tundra biomes, eventually everything will melt and everything will start warming up. But considering our cool slush geyser is connected to it, that means this area will always stay cool. And with having more batteries, it'll actually help keep our battery draw and battery generation more consistent. Because once the dupes get it up to 90 and 100%, if you have 30 batteries, your overall power will drain a lot slower. So we got some work to do with here too. I think we'll start with a couple of Drecko ranches and have some glossy Dreckos and regular Dreckos going. And this is going to be beautiful because with minimal power draw, we're going to be able to run Dreckos and glossy Dreckos, which will give us thimbleweed and plastic. We have 2 rooms set up at 96 tiles apiece, and that is perfect size for what we need. And I think this is going to be our initial setup. I'm going with a little bit different design, and I'm putting the shearing station and the grooming station in the center of the room. I want to try this out because normally I have it towards the entrance of the room, which means when they're calling Dreckos, sometimes the Drecko's got to come from a long way before they get here. In this case, doesn't matter where the Drecko is in the room, it should cut down on some of the walking time that the Drecko has to make to get to the grooming station or shearing station. We'll see. I'm not 100% sold on this, but it's a good start. We're going with 6 farm tiles so we can throw in some mealwood, and these will be harvest disabled. We don't ever want to harvest these. We just want them to grow for the Dreckos to eat. But the last issue is actually getting the hydrogen in here. Lucky for us, we have a ton of beautiful hydrogen coming from our oxygen station. And instead of running a whole new pipe down here, that seems like it'd be a pain in the butt. Why don't we just collect it into a canister for a little bit and go from there? This will be good, and I think we'll cut off the line here, and that way it all goes into our canister filler. Now, we do want an oxygen supply in these rooms, because otherwise, if there's not enough oxygen coming into these rooms, the hydrogen will start dropping. So we're going to make sure we have our pipes, but unlike normally, we're going to put them down at the bottom. That way the oxygen feeds from bottom up, which will help squish the hydrogen into these top 2 tiles. And then we'll just put ye old canister emptier right in there. And once this one's done, we'll throw one down here and let it fill up with about 2 tiles high worth of hydrogen. Oh yes, we're loading up that hydrogen now. And these canister fillers will go for 25 kilos. Once you have 25 kilos, it'll actually start back pressuring. So we need to get that canister removed pretty quickly. In fact, why don't we just reconnect these pipes? We can draw 50% of it. It's not a big deal. And we just come down here to the magical canister emptier and go to unbreathable and into hydrogen. Now we have 25 kilos coming in here, and this is 24 tiles wide. It's going to take several canisters worth to load this up correctly. If you figure you have 25 kilos coming in, each canister is going to put a little over 100 kilos in each tile. Here we got 1 canister being emptied right now. We can go to our materials overlay, and you can see the hydrogen coming out. Why don't we start scooping up some Dreckos now? We have a couple here that's been chilling out inside of our colony for a little while, but we actually have a wild glossy Drecko and a glossy Drecklet egg in here, which is pretty rare. Unfortunately, there's a morb, so if we do get in there, we'll make sure we steer clear of the morb. I think if we cut open this spot right here, we'll be low enough to where we can also grab that glossy Drecko egg. We're getting close to the amount that we want in this first area. Ideally, you want 2 solid tiles high of hydrogen. That way your dreckos are guaranteed to be in the hydrogen more often. And as a reminder, their scale growth, or in this case, their woolly fibers, will only grow in hydrogen climates. Since we're over here, let's go ahead and load up 2 of these incubators and set them for drecklet eggs. And then we'll load the other 2 with glossy drecklet eggs. And remember, the reason why we can't go all 4 tiles full of hydrogen is because then the mealwood wouldn't grow. The only atmospheres the mealwood likes is the oxygen, the polluted oxygen, and the carbon dioxide. And you don't have to worry about overfilling your hydrogen, because once it gets low enough, it'll just spill out of this pneumatic door. We don't want to waste too much though, we just want the solid tiles. Now in the background, I'm going to be keeping my eyes out for another rancher. Remember, we converted Bert into a rancher when we were starting to play with pips. But now, we want to put him back into cooking. He doesn't love ranching, and would really rather have him as our second cook. Now, we do have a primary cook in Abe, which is all fine and good. Especially heading into the mid and late game, I like to run with 2 cooks. Especially considering how many dupes we're going to need to run, considering our power system. It's almost like the game is laughing at me at this point. Like Randy Random is sitting in the background somewhere, crossing through genres and games going, haha, not today. Look at Ruby, a strong +15 rancher. I'd love to take you, Ruby, but you're anemic. Not just a little anemic, a lot of anemic. -5 to athletics. It's almost like she'd be crawling around the base. Sorry, Ruby, not this time. Now, you may be wondering why we're not just going to kill the morb. Well, that's because I promised everyone we're going to do a zoo. So, we're actually going to grab this morb and put him in safekeeping. Now, unfortunately, from what I understand about morbs is they don't actually breed. They don't actually lay eggs or anything like that. There's no such thing as a morb egg. So, they'll just live and eventually die, I assume? I don't know. Every once in a while, if you run these toilets for too long, you'll just see a morb just kind of pop into existence. I'm not 100% sure how that works, but I'm pretty sure it has to do with the amount of germs. Morbs are much more likely to be born when there's a ton of germs around. So I went through the trouble of making this cool little morb cage. It's just going to be a little place. It's got some chlorine in it to really clean the morb up. He was going to have fun. He's going to get to play with his little critter drop-off stand. I may even have dropped in a little bit of polluted dirt for him. Unfortunately, one does not simply wrangle a morb. I think what we're going to do is wait until we can build a plastic trap and see maybe if the plastic trap will grab the morb. We're also going to be playing around with how much meal wood does the Drecko actually need. We're going to start with 6 plants. Now right now there's only 3 Dreckos in here, and you can see we've gotten 3 meal woods to full harvest. They don't need to go to full harvest, so we'll see. If we consistently see that it's going to full harvest, we'll remove one of these farm tiles until we get a good equilibrium. Other than that, I think our Drecko ranches are good to go. We've got our incubators ready. We even got our first things of plastic and of thimbleweed. Now on to bathrooms. Now in the background, I moved some of the cots around. I know eventually we're going to be sitting, probably my best guess is at 90 dupes. And I'm thinking 90 dupes is good to have about 40 dupes into normal colony stuff and spread throughout the solar system, and about 50 dupes just doing power generation. That is based on absolutely zero math and just a best guess. But I mention that because I wanted to make sure that we have enough room for all the cots and enough room for multiple bathrooms. Remember in your schedules, ooh, I need to move Hassan. All right, that's better. You remember in your schedules, the dupes share a bathroom time. So you only really want to have as many dupes in per shift as you do bathrooms. Right now, we're running 3 outhouses, so we have 3 duplicants. But eventually, we'll need 6 bathrooms and 9 bathrooms to be able to run with all of these duplicants. So I think we're going to use these areas here for multiple bathroom sets. We'll start with the first normal bathroom here, and then go on from there. What's great is when you have multiple bathrooms, they can all share the same polluted water to water refinement. I think we'll put that right in the middle where all these beautiful pips are living right now. So where am I going to move you beautiful pips? I tell you what, let's just let the pips roam free. We'll put a critter drop off on the outside of our colony and then drop them all off. All right, that's working out well, but we also want to get the pip eggs out. So we've set a little automatic dispenser. We'll throw on critter eggs and then pip eggs and make it sweep only. And sweep. Now we can clean up the mess that the pips made. All right, this will be a good start. We'll get all this swept up and all the real tiles put in so we can run the plumbing lines behind them. So I got the water sieve in and I started doing the plumbing and I said, you know what? If I'm going to go ahead and do this, let's do it right. So we're going to put in all three. We're going to get these set up and then we're going to tear all this out and put the third set in. And it's going to be pretty nice. And that way we can go all the way up to 9 dupes per shift without having to worry about dupes peeing everywhere. All right, we got the first 2 levels done. Apparently, I did not put the plumbing up on this right at all. There we go. That one's much better. Now we need to charge the water sieve, and I suppose we need to get power to it as well. We'll come straight off of here. We also power up a deodorizer. Occasionally, the water sieve puts out some polluted dirt, which will off-gas, so we want to make sure that any sort of polluted oxygen gets crushed by the deodorizer. And to charge it, I think we're going to use this little pool of polluted water right here. We will just break it open, which will off-gas, and these deodorizers will take care of that. Throw in a nice little liquid pump right here. Then we just plug into a pipe into the drain side. Beautiful. Here comes the fresh polluted water, if that's such a thing, because right now it doesn't have any fecal germs. Yes, I said fecal germs. Now this system here, if the water sieve is full, the excess will go to these farm tiles, which will eventually have some thimbleweeds growing into them. Unfortunately, we don't exactly have any thimbleweeds. Alright, I think we're getting backed up just enough, so let's cut off the flow right here. And that's probably actually a little bit too much, considering we do not have the thimbleweeds yet. But we'll keep an eye on it. If we have to, we'll put in a couple storage tanks for the overflow. For those who've seen this setup for the first time, what happens when dupes use the sinks, the showers, and the lavatories, it produces polluted water. The polluted water comes down these pipes, goes into our water sieve, gets cleaned into clean water, and then the clean water loads all of the toilets and the sinks back up. Unfortunately, this is a water positive process. Now, before you start getting crazy and thinking of great ideas of what to do with all this extra water, remember it is now germy polluted water. Which there are definitely ways you can get rid of the germs and then recycle the water, but normally it's not worth the squeeze. But now that we have these toilets set up, we can go ahead and remove the outhouses and the wash basins and set up our third row. One big deconstruct later. All right, beautiful. And because we have the extra polluted water in there, everything is fully charged and the water sieve is doing what it's supposed to perfectly. But now I want to go find some thimbleweed seeds to put in these hydroponic tiles. And I think that's going to be a case of sending somebody over. Now, as soon as we clicked on this, it discovered our new planetoid, Tuckerini. Now, we can't see much on Tarkarini yet, but as soon as we pop in there, we will be able to. The good thing, though, is we can see the geysers that it has, including a liquid sulfur geyser, which means we're probably going to run the grub fruit. And we also get to see the biomes. Unfortunately, none of these biomes really get me excited and thinking that there might be any thimbleweed, so the best we can do is going exploring. Thinking maybe in a rust biome, but I'm not 100% sure. I think we'll go ahead and send Gossman. Gossman's got the first 3 diggings, and that should be good. Now, I highly recommend that you go ahead and save before you send anybody into the teleporter transmitter. I've seen a couple of bugs where it will crash the game when the dupe comes back through on the receiver side. All right, Gossman's all loaded up. Good luck, buddy. All right, first things first, we're going to need to make sure that we have enough oxygen to sustain Gossman just for a little bit. And it does look like we got a fair chunk, about 1,800 grams per tile. The teleporter transmitter is charged already. And then there's the poor dupe inside the cryo tank 3000. I always feel bad if I don't defrost the friend. We won't do it yet. We're not going to be here for very long. We only need one thimbleweed seed. Then we need to find the machine that can send it back there and we'll be good. Oh, look at that. It even starts with 17 kilos of nutrient bar. All right. It looks like this little platform area is really low on the planetoid because we're already down at the oil biome. So I think we should just go ahead and dig up. Now, unfortunately, there's no bathrooms in this place. So we're going to give them a cot, but Gossman's just going to pee themselves for a little while. Oh, there you go, buddy. I bet you feel better now, don't you? We are going to mop that up because we don't want the sopping wet debuff every single time. Okay, Gossman's been a huge help, and we found the conveyor loader. Unfortunately, I'm starting to get worried. I don't think there's any thimbleweed on this planet either. With the assumption that this is the bottom of the planetoid, this is obviously the top, we don't have much more to explore. You can see the neutronium on this side. Why don't we venture off this way, shall we? Well, we found an electric grill. That's real handy. We're actually just waiting for Gossman to go to the bathroom because I don't want to pollute this nice clean water. Because eventually dupes will come back here and they'll need a source of clean water. No, no, no. You are heading back over here. This is your little pee corner. Good job, buddy. So, in true Echo fashion, I completely forgot about the canister emptier, and now we have way too much hydrogen in here, which luckily it's not stifling all... Nope, it's definitely stifling all of the beautiful mealwoods. And since the hydrogen's a little bit warm, it's, you know, even the body temperature's not quite right. Once we get that cold oxygen in there, it should be okay. And also, lucky for us, all the excess hydrogen should come up out through here and start pulling where this door is. Not a big deal. When we eventually go back through that door, it'll empty into the vacuum of space. Well, I think we've been able to confirm that there is no thimbleweed seeds on this planetoid. My last hope was this area out here, if it had a little bit of the polluted oxygen biomes, but it does not. Considering Gossman's at 92% stress, it's probably about time to send him on anyways, but first, buddy, you need to clean up your mess. Now you can see without the thimbleweed that our polluted water is starting to back up. So we need to do something about this. So I think what we're going to do is just put in some nice tanks. All right, that's much better. We have these tanks up there. And all that we're doing is if there's no thimbleweeds, the polluted water just skips right by the hydroponic style and goes up into these tanks. Now I am invariably going to forget that these tanks are going to fill up. It's going to take a long time considering we have 6 of them, but it's going to happen. When it does, we'll just deconstruct a couple of tanks. It'll spit out all of its polluted water, and then we'll put the tanks back. Until we can get to a planetoid that actually has the thimbleweeds, this system will not be complete. But now on for our addition to the hamster cage, and that starts with a battery box in here. Now what we're going to do is we're going to put a bunch of batteries in here, but the bad thing about batteries is they produce heat. Well, it's going to take a long time for them to eat through all this chill. And even when they do, this polluted water will still be cold enough to keep the surrounding area at least somewhat cold. Now, once we dig in through all this ice, there's going to be a lot of leftover ice. And when there is, we want that water to drain somewhere. And so, very conveniently, it's all going to drain down here into this tank. Let's see what we can come up with. Yeah, I think that ought to be enough to start with. I think we finally found dupe number 14, and he's going to replace Bert as our rancher. Now, he does have the +4 strength, which will be great for carrying things around. He's got kitchen menace, which, yeah, he's not a good cook, but it's actually a good thing for a dupe in most situations. He gets a +1 food morale bonus because he can't tell the difference between good food and bad food. Plant murderer, we don't care. So, yeah. Stinky's a great addition. While the dupes spend the next month of Sundays finishing that battery box, it's time for the redesign on the hamster cage. We're going to start with our lower priority levels, so that way we still have dupes performing some power generation on the first level. And once again, time for a massive deconstruct. Need to be a little bit careful. I still have this one transformer feeding the base. I think it's time we move this one. This looks like a good spot for now. Eventually our main power spine will come around here, and the transformers will send the power through from this side. For now, this will do just fine. Once they finish with this construction, we can remove this power transformer and then gut this whole level. Beautiful. Now it's time for the massive deconstruct. Alright, this gives us a nice starting point. Let's at least sweep this up first as we go. What are we still storing in here? Oh, this is our old rust and salt bins. We can get rid of those. Okay, here's the new system. I'm going to try to explain it the best I can, but there's something I still don't understand about it. First, I got to give a shout out to everybody who kept saying, hey, do this, do this, do this. Apparently, there's a few ways to make this happen. And as luck would have it, I didn't discover it until after I did my power tutorial, until people still kept punching me in the face, said, no, you're doing it wrong, do this. And the reason why it didn't make sense is because, well, it doesn't make sense. Right now, we're using a backwards power transformer. If you zoom all the way in, you can see which way the energy flows. This isn't a very big deal. We have our conductive wiring. It's feeding into the transformer, which then goes into our main power spine. Now, normally, when you do this, the dupes wouldn't reliably run. Even though this is set on 9070, and we have an awesome little automation wire connecting all these wheels and this battery, it says, hey, if the power's below 70, time to get your butt on a wheel and start running. Well, they would sometimes fall off, they wouldn't stay running, all this sort of things. And everybody's like, well, hey, if you put a battery right here before this transformer, for some reason it fixes it. Well, not only that, you can just put a simple switch. The switch doesn't have to be wired to anything as far as automation wise, and they still keep running. It's absolutely amazing. You can see on the large end of the transformer, it's just going right through the switch, and for some reason this is enough a disconnection to where they want to keep running on the transformer. I think it has something to do with the way the transformer sees and delivers power. But whatever it is, it works. And now it has the benefit of not being next to the ugly decor of all these nasty wires. Now, right now, it's still not glowing very well because we're still getting some of the negative decor from the airflow tiles and some of this massive heavy watt wire. But now that we have these up and running, we can go ahead and delete this level as well. Well, it appears the dupes are making liars out of me. I did the exact same setup, except I didn't put the power shutoff in here. And right now, they're acting identical, and the dupes are just running like they're supposed to run. And they're the only dupes running, and the power is still going up. I'm not sure what the difference is. I'm never going to look a gift horse in the mouth, and it's working, so we're just going to roll with it. I'm going to leave this one without the power shutoff in the middle, just to make sure I don't see any problems in the future. We have this battery set on 9070. We can probably run this one, say, 9050. Now, a quick overview about how the power grid is now changed. We only have one light bulb. This light bulb just turns on when this battery is saying, hey, we need runners. And it's a good visual indicator for me to know, hey, we need runners here and there's no runners, so whatever we're doing something wrong. Now, of note, the light bulb is plugged into the far side of the transformer, because otherwise, if there's no power generation here, it wouldn't be able to actually light this bulb up. So this is actually coming off the main power spine. Look at the new guy in there jumping in, being a team player. Way to go, new guy. Now, why is this working with only 10 wheels? Well, that's where we have to follow our power spine all the way up. And it leads to this massive battery box. And it is wonderful and all that is good in the world. Now, because there are so many batteries, what this means is the dupes will get the call, they'll come run on the wheel, and they won't stop until these things get up to 90%. We'll actually probably kick it up to 95 or 98 for even better efficiency. We don't have to worry about the same sort of things that when we're running hydrogen generators. But because there's so much energy stored, it takes the grid a lot longer to drain from it, which means we don't have dupes running back and forth all the time. They may only have to charge maybe once per cycle. So you might be wondering why we're limited to 5 wheels. That has to do with the conductive wire. Remember, each manual generator produces 400 watts, and the maximum load of a conductive wire is 2000. And you can see right now, the current load is maxed out on this wire because we have all 5 wheels active. So when it's time for expansion, in other words, we're using a lot more power around the base, we'll do one of 2 things. A, we can make the battery box bigger, so that way there's more potential energy stored up for it to use, and that way it takes longer for it to drain, so the dupes go longer between having cycles to run. The second thing we can do, and this is probably not as efficient, is throw in another level with 5 more wheels. So far, this has been running for 2 to 3 cycles, and this light has never turned on, which means right now for our power needs, with 30 batteries on the grid, this level's never even had to run, because these batteries have never gotten below 50%. Now this of course is going to change, because right now for power consumption we have 1 oxygen setup, we have some research, some shearing stations, and a grill. It's not much for power, but as we expand we're going to keep power consumption in mind. Well, in this episode we managed to get dreckos and glossy dreckos up. We're already up to 2 and 4. Next episode, we're going to put in some automation to get these eggs out and probably have a starvation farming shearing station, which is also going to give us a lot of great meat. Speaking of which, I think it's time to turn on the barbecue. We also added a ton of bathrooms in order to future-proof ourselves. Right now, with this many bathrooms, we could run 9 duplicants per schedule. That's incredible. That already gives us a capacity of 72 duplicants. We're going to be good for a long time. We put in our magical battery box, and so far, the heat's doing just dandy. It is still minus 20 in this biome, which I just realized we're going to need to be careful. There's some brine ice in here. So we're going to have to put some filter situation in to where we're not running brine through here. Otherwise, it'll break our sieve and or our electrolyzers. And then finally, we upgraded our hamster cage. I have no idea why this is working so well right now, this top level. There's nothing in between these wheels and this transformer. And in all my past experiments, this didn't work. But let's not look the gift horse in the mouth. If something breaks, we'll put the power shut off there and then everything will work right as rain. Well, I hope you had as much fun watching this episode as I did creating it. This dumpster fire has been wonderful to try to keep putting out. Until next time, I'll talk to you soon.